Hey everybody, this is Nick with Rogue Overland. And in this video, we're excited to take out a pair of Australian off-road trailers, which are available exclusively here in the United States through XGRID Campers in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're gonna put these trailers through the test and let you know what we think of them, and also give you an idea of some of the features they have and how they may or may not fit into your next overland adventure. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of these trailers, let me just say that if you enjoy outdoor and off-road content, please consider subscribing to the channel. We put out all kinds of content ranging from gear review videos to trail review videos and adventure videos. And at the end of this video, if you found it informative, please consider smashing that like button. Now, if you've watched any of our review videos before, you know that I'm not just going to sit here and laundry list the specs of these trailers to you. You can go on the website and find all that information. What I am going to do is show you some cool clips of us using these trailers, and also going to talk about some of the key features that we found useful. Now, Australian Off-Road has been building trailers in Australia for over 20 years. So these things have definitely been tested in some of the toughest environments available. The two models that we're going to take out are the Sierra, which is a little more of a built-out version, having a kitchen, a whole kitchen enclosure, and its own little separate sleeping area that's enclosed. And we're going to take out the Sierra ZR, which is a little bit leaned out version that does still have a kitchen, but not quite as extensive, and it uses a rooftop tent system instead of an enclosed sleeping area. On this particular trip, we were out with Bertha, the NV3500, and she was pulling the Sierra model, and then Ruth, the 4th generation 4Runner, which was pulling the Sierra ZR model. Now, what I want to do is basically go through sort of each area of the trailer and talk about some of the key features between the two. And then at the end, what we'll do is wrap up with our general thoughts of the pros and cons of running these trailers. Now let's talk about what it's like to pull these trailers. The suspension is a dual shock independent trailing arm setup, which they build in-house. And that means that the wheels are moving independently of each other. And so it minimizes the transfer of bumps through the trailer and into the towing vehicle. And what I can tell you is these parts are robust. I mean, Mike's a fabricator. He has his CDL. So he's been around trailers, he's pulled stuff, he's built stuff. And when we got under this thing, he was blown away at how robust the build is on the suspension pieces. So what that translates into is a trailer that tows on the highway very, very well, and also does very well off-road. As you can see in some of the clips, we took it through some ravines and over some rutted out portions of trail, and with that DO35 hitch, and with the suspension setup, that trailer just, you know, does what it needs to do. It has the approach angle and the departure angle to be able to just pulled it through pretty much anything we took it through and do just fine, whether that be off-road or on-road. So it is a very nice trailer to pull. The one thing you do want to keep in mind is with it being built so robust, it is a little bit heavy for the size trailer it is. But we'll take a little heavier to be bulletproof on the trail any day of the week. Let's talk about the kitchen setup on these two trailers. Now, the nice thing with a trailer is that you roll in, pull over, you want to make lunch, and boom, there it is. You have all your kitchen stuff, it's set up and ready to go. Where if you're rolling 5 deep in an SUV, sometimes that cooking stuff is a little more packed away in a Tetris style. Now with the ZR model, some of the really amazing features is that you have the door for the kitchen compartment actually acting as an awning because of how large it is. There's a decent amount of countertop space. All your silverware and everything, your pans, there's lots of compartments where that stuff is easily accessible and stays organized. You have the running water, and then you have the fridge in its own compartment that has a ventilation fan so that the fridge will stay cool. And the fridge slide actually is a dual slide, so it gives you an additional amount of space for prepping food or for running the stove. Now, a couple of things we found a little bit difficult with the kitchen setup on the Sierra is that the slide is also the spot where the stove is going to go. So you have to take the stove from a separate compartment and get it set up every single time that you want to cook. It's not preset anywhere in that kitchen compartment where you just slide it out and boom, it's ready to go. And then also the water from the sink drains at your feet where you're standing doing dishes. Now XGRID does give you a bucket to catch that water, and then as it fills up, you just go dump it somewhere else. We actually found it really helpful for putting out the campfire at night, but it is an interesting design that the water does dump right by your feet. Now on the Sierra ZR model, we found the amount of countertop space to be more than enough. And when you have that additional slide on the fridge out, it's even more space. So you can kind of divide and conquer, if you will. In our case, one person was over here making al pastor tacos, and over here somebody is making guacamole. So there's plenty of room. You have the running water as well, and you also have easy access to the stove. So where the stove stows, it's very easy to get it open and running. Now, a couple of things we found frustrating with it is that you have no built-in shade. So if you need shade, you're forced to deploy that awning. And then if you have the stove out and you're using the stove, it actually blocks the access to the silverware. So you just need to put a little forethought in, get the silverware out before you get that stove up and running. Power is not going to be a concern with these setups. They have a 300 amp hour battery bank and 2000 watt inverter, all which is controlled by the REDARC RedVision setup and can also be accessed and controlled via your smartphone. Now, we haven't had any experience with the REDARC RedVision prior to this, and it's a very intuitive setup. And basically, it is the brain that is going to control the power for your fridge, the power for the water pump, the power for all of the lights. Basically anything that's using power in the trailer, outside of the trailer lights for when you're towing. And then also there is a solar setup. So with the solar input, the REDARC RedVision is going to manage that input to recharge your battery bank. Now these trailers come with plenty of water. I can't remember exactly the size, but I want to say it's something like 40 gallons of available water storage, maybe even more. And for us, we're so used to living off of much less that it wasn't an issue at all. We didn't even come close to using all the water. But one of the cool features is that there is a shower setup on both of these trailers. So I did a little GoPro clip while we were out there using the shower. So check this out. So we've been out for a couple days now, and down in southern Utah, it's kind of hot right now. Like daytime highs have been around 90. And then we've been chasing elevation, so overnight lows have been really comfortable. But during the day, kind of hot and sweaty, dusty, dirty. So cool thing about these trailers is they actually have a shower setup. So we're gonna go ahead and give that a go. Get a little shower, see if everybody can sleep a little better tonight, being nice and clean. I've been working on the railroad all the day long day.
I didn't do the
I'm feeling so fresh and clean. Pretty amazing. We don't usually roll with showers. Really nice thing about pulling a trailer is having a shower. So got to shower off and nice and clean for a good sleep tonight. Let's talk about the sleeping arrangements on the two trailers. So the Sierra ZR has a Cascadia Vehicle Tents rooftop tent. And we have been using Cascadia Vehicle Tents, rooftop tents, for a very, very long time at this point. And when it comes to rooftop tents, they are very robust, and they have handled all kinds of conditions that we have had them in without any issue. The nice thing about the model that they chose for this particular trailer is it has that quick deployment. So you're just going to unbuckle the one side, and there is a hydraulic assist, push it up, and it's just going to wedge open, and your tent is ready to go. And then the nice thing about the rooftop tent being on there and the style that they chose is it's a sleek design, and it's going to help keep that weight lower on the trailer as compared to the boxed in style on the Sierra regular. Now, one other thing I will say about the Sierra ZR is that it has a massive platform for where that rooftop tent is mounted. So it can hold the largest tents on the market, or even two smaller tents set up side by side. So the Sierra model has an enclosed sleeping area that has, I believe it's a full-size mattress, and I didn't get to sleep in it because my kids were in it the whole time. But it's the nice thing about that is that your bed is always set up. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but the compartments are all dust-proof. So you just show up, open the door, boom, your bed is ready to go. So that's a very nice setup as well. And on that Sierra model, there is also a built-in annex, if you will, or changing room. And so between that and the sleeping area, you have a lot of space that is sheltered from the elements. Let's talk about how these trailers are dust-proof. Now, if you have adventured at all, especially in the Southwest, then you know that there isn't pretty much anything out there that's dust-proof. We get dust in the back of the van, even with all the windows up. On Conius, the 2001 Nissan Xterra always gets dust in it, even with the windows up. And yeah, we've just every setup we have, you know, dust gets everywhere. Well, I can say after driving these trailers all over Utah in very dusty conditions that they're dust-proof. So it's very interesting. I looked at all the seals, and the seals are very, very robust. And then the hinges have this cool design where I would call it like a two-step setup, where the first part of the turn turns the hinge to latch, and then the second part of the turn actually sucks the hinge in tight so that the door is sealing extremely tight against the rubber seal. So like I said, we drove these all over, and all the compartments didn't have any dust in them. The only compartment that had any dirt in it was the compartment where we were putting the RC rock crawlers in, and that's because our sons drove them through the mud. So they're dust proof. It's an awesome setup, and it's great to know that your gear is going to be nice and clean when you get to camp. The next thing I'd like to talk about is a feature that the Sierra has, and that is a firewood rack. So if you've seen many of our Rogue Overland Expedition videos, put a link up here, then you generally see firewood kind of strapped all over rigs. If you've been out on your own trips, you know a lot of times that firewood is sort of the last thing and you just put it where you can. Might be on the roof rack, in the bed of a truck, in a trasharoo, inside an SUV if there's no other space. And so this Sierra model has a firewood rack, and here's a clip of us using it and a little description of how it came about. We're out looking for camp. It's getting towards the end of the day. And one of the cool things about the Sierra trailer is that it actually has a built-in fire rack. And so my understanding is that out in Australia, when they're out roaming around, nobody brings firewood. You just, when you're around on the trail and you see some firewood, you grab it. So we're gonna give that a go here. We're out here and we're gonna grab some firewood. There's some downed trees and some dry wood out here. We're gonna get it loaded up, and that'll be our firewood for camp tonight.
There you go, there's one.
Like I've said, perfect bungee is the bungee cord you never knew you needed.
Now, when you need to get out of the sun, the Sierra is set up with a Bush Company 180-degree XT Max awning. Now, this awning, we had no experience using it prior to this trip, and it was very easy setup. Just unzip the cover, flip the one side out, flip the other side out, secure the two ends. There's no poles to set up, and it felt very robust. We weren't able to test it in any high winds, but in a slight breeze down by one of the lakes we stopped at, or reservoir I should say, it did just fine. It held up very well. We were never concerned that it was going to fail. And here's a little clip you can see of Mike and I hanging out under there while we're doing some navigation.
Oh, hey there. Just wanted to take a quick sec to say that we're trying out this Bush Company awning here, and it's great. We don't usually deploy awnings at quick lunch stops, but it was a fast deployment and really liking it. And then wanted to take a quick second to talk about navigation, because we're figuring out where we're going to go next. We mix up navigation all the time, different apps. In this particular trip, we're using the Garmin Overlander, and then it's always good to have a backup map.
Yeah, we've been using these benchmark maps for years and years. Might have had a map's got duct tape holding it together. We've had it so long, but these are great for finding all those little roads in the backcountry.
Yeah, so no matter what you're using, always good to have that paper map as a backup.
All right, there it is. You've made it to the end, and now let's talk about the pros and cons as a whole, in our opinion, after taking these out for a weekend. Now, before we get into that, throw a comment below. We would love to hear what you think about camper, or trailer I should say, versus no trailer on an outdoor or overland trip. And also, if you tow a trailer, what are some of the features that you like to see and some things that you don't like about the trailer that you're currently using? Now, I will put the contact information for XGRID Campers down below. They have these Australian off-road models, and they also have many, many other models of trailer available for rent and also for purchase. So if you're interested, definitely reach out to them for that. First and foremost, just as a whole, these trailers seem to be thought through very, very well. All the features are very usable. So there's ample storage throughout both of these trailers, and it's not just open tubs where you just throw a bunch of crap and your stuff's rattling around in there. They're isolated compartments, and so you're able to keep your gear organized in these storage compartments that they provide. The dust-proof feature is amazing, to know that your gear is not just going to be covered in dust and muck when you get to the trail. is a great feature. And then the thought put into the electronics and the water. So there's plenty of water with that. There's water filtration and the water pump, and then the REDARC system, the REDARC RedVision, basically controlling all of that, controlling the pump for the water, controlling the lights. You know, there's lights all over and all very usable. I never found myself in an area on the trailer doing something, saying to myself, man, like I wish there was a light here. There's a light there, so turn it on. So it's just, the trailer's thought out very well. And then the bulletproof design with just the robustness of the kind of rubberized coating, if you will. I'm not exactly sure if it's rubber, but it feels like some type of coating. We took the trailers through some pretty narrow trails with a brush scraping down the sides, and the trailers didn't sustain any damage to that coating, and just how well they held up to everywhere that we took them. And they have true off-road tires, so these are true off-road trailers. They're not an on-road trailer being marketed as an off-road trailer. And then lastly, with that hitch, that D035 hitch, and in the setup of the suspension, the trailers tow. You're able to tow them very, very well. We towed them with a 3rd Gen 4Runner, as you saw, and then a large van, and neither vehicle had any issues towing these on the interstate, small, twisty back road highways, and the trails that you saw that we took them on. Now, no product is perfect, but some of the cons that I would like to touch on that while we had them out, we felt could have been improved on, is just that water dumping out into your foot area when you're in the Sierra model. It would be nice to have that rooted somewhere else. And then also something that can't necessarily be changed without sacrificing the robustness or maybe driving the price up with some type of crazy light material. But these trailers they're on the heavier side, and that is coming out of the fact that they've been built in Australia for over 20 years and tested in those harsh environments. And so these trailers are built to be bomb-proof, and with that, you're going to have some weight. So there it is. That's our experience taking these trailers out. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please smash that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. You can find us on all social media avenues at Rogue Overland, and we'll see you on the trail.